This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yun Xiao sighed. These people who had been completely possessed by the devil could still maintain a certain level of consciousness on normal days, but as soon as they saw Yu Shengfeng, they would completely become his slaves. They had seen his battle with Yu Shengfeng just now, so he had also become their enemy. Boom. Boom. The two demonized people rushed up directly, and the wind from their fists broke through the air. They had actually recovered to their peak state, and their attacks were ruthless and deadly. At this moment, Yun Xiao was almost exhausted. Under his will, the gourd little King Kong in the air instantly flew down and punched out with all his strength. The ice fiend heart flame suddenly exploded at the tip of his fist, and the wind from the punch scattered in all directions with flowers of flame. The whole space was frozen. Crack. The two demonized martial sovereigns who had rushed forward seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. They were pale blue in color, and their bodies began to disappear slowly. It looked like it was frozen, but it was actually burning. It was extremely strange. Both Shuai Junwei and Du Linling were shocked and terrified. The remaining few demonized martial emperors were not afraid at all. They roared and charged forward. The crocodile in the sky also roared and rolled down like a windmill, smashing a martial artist into pieces on the spot. Dark thunder also spat out lightning in the air. With the three monsters working together, they killed all the demonized martial artists in a few breaths. Shuai Junwei and Du Linling turned their eyes to Yun Xiao. They were both trembling with fear and pleading. "You won't blame me for killing them, will you?" Yun Xiao asked. No, of course not." Shuai Junwei shook his head like a rattledrum and said anxiously, "They've been possessed by the devil and can't be saved, but we still have our minds. Please save us, Lordly Yun Xiao." "Don't worry," Yun Xiao nodded. "I'll save you." He stepped forward and made a few hand seals in the air. Two forces poured into the two of them. To the shock of Shuai Junwei and Du Linling, the Emperor Aura Yun Xiao had sent into their bodies was just ordinary Emperor Aura, but it could dissolve the demonic aura that had eroded their flesh and divine sense one by one and quickly disperse it. The two men still couldn't believe it. After checking their bodies carefully, they were overjoyed and thanked him profusely. "Lord Dongyang," Yun Xiao said indifferently, "you have been hiding underground for a long time. Now that your master has left, when will he come out?" Both Du Linling and Shuai Junwei's expressions changed. They looked at each other, and their eyes gleamed. The entire pile of trash was silent, without a single sound. The dark thunder roared and spat out a bolt of lightning. It hit the ground and cracked open the earth's crust. The golden lightning kept drilling in. Boom. Not far from where the lightning struck, the ground cracked open. Wei Dongyang turned into a beam of light and escaped into the distance without any hesitation. Yun Xiao sneered as he took out the Great Sorrow Sunset Cloud Mirror and shone it into the sky. Wei Dongyang's body stopped for a moment, but in that instant, the three monsters caught up and surrounded him. Wei Dongyang's physical strength had not even recovered to 30%. He looked at the three monsters in horror and begged for mercy, "Lord Yun Xiao, please spare me. I'm willing to be your low-level subordinate." Yun Xiao's face darkened as he said contemptuously, "I don't have a fetish like Yu Shengfeng, kill him." He muttered two words and the three monsters immediately attacked. Without a doubt, Wei Dongyang killed them all. Both Shuai Junwei and Du Linling were frightened, both happy and afraid. At this moment, their lives were in Yun Xiao's hands, so they were very respectful. Yun Xiao glanced at the two and said indifferently, "Let's go," he said. Shuai Junwei was stunned for a moment and said, "Leave? Where are you going?" "Of course," Yun Xiao said with a smile. "I'm going back. There was once a powerful existence here, but it has also disappeared in history. I'm afraid that only Yu Shengfeng knows why Yu Yixian chose this place to build a tomb. There are no treasures here, why not go back?" The two of them fell silent. This time, the people from the 2 cities and 4 families had come out in full force, and almost all of them had been wiped out. This time, not only would the situation of the two cities change, but the Shuai family and Du family would also become the dominant families. The Earth Dragon City and Long Valley City would also be at the bottom of the rankings. Lord Junwei, Yunxiao said, I would like to borrow the teleportation array of the Shuai family to go to Red Moon City. May I? Shuai Junwei jumped in shock and said, of course, of course. He didn't dare to say no and quickly said, no matter what Lord Yunxiao wants to do, as long as my commander's military prestige is still in Long Valley City, it's just a matter of a word. I, Du Linling, am also willing to listen to Lord Yunxiao's orders at any time. Du Linling also expressed his stance in a hurry. Not only was his life in Yunxiao's hands, but the strength Yunxiao had shown just now was too shocking to hear. The importance and opportunity of being able to build a good relationship with such a powerful man were self-evident. The three of them flew back as fast as they could. Du Linling went to Earth Dragon City alone, while Yunxiao and Shuai Junwei returned to Long Valley City. After this battle, the Shuai family lost all of their elites. From then on, they crazily increased the investment of resources for the younger generation and wantonly recruited guest elders to consolidate their strength. The Du family also unified the Earth Dragon City and formed a strategic alliance with the Shuai family. They worked together and stabilized the situation of the two cities. After returning to Long Valley City, Yunxiao and Shuai Junwei did not forget to bid farewell to Ziling. This strengthened the commander's decision to make Ziling the next king. Although Ziling was a little sad, she was still very happy. She knew that the gap between the two was too big. It was just a chance encounter under a special environment. Perhaps after this farewell, they would never see each other again in this life. However, just this encounter had changed her life. She was already very content. After bidding farewell to Ziling, he stepped onto the teleportation array and headed directly to the Red Moon City. Now, he also basically knew the situation in Red Moon City. It was turbulent, and undercurrents were surging. The control and suppression of the entire eastern region had become extremely weak, and those powerful sects were beginning to stir. Right now, everyone's focus was on one thing, and that was the life and death of the Red Moon City Master, Jiang Churan. Although the rumors were flying around, saying that City Lord Jiang was already dead, before the news was confirmed, this suppressed volcano was still brewing. I heard that the sect master of the Four Extremes sect, Tang Qing, is going to be elected as the new city master of Red Moon City. Is this true? Is it true? The notice has been put up in the morning. I'm afraid that letters will be sent to the sects in the eastern region today. In a few days, letters will be sent to the Holy Region and the other 6 major forces. Bah! What city lord? He was the acting city lord. When City Lord Jiang returns, I will definitely teach him a lesson. City Lord Jiang? I'm afraid I won't be able to come back. What did you say? A warrior on the street was furious. He pointed at another warrior and shouted, if you continue to speculate about City Lord Jiang's whereabouts maliciously, I will fight you. The other martial artist's expression changed slightly. After weighing the pros and cons, he snorted coldly and said, it's fine if you don't want to say it. The whole world knows about it. What else is there to say? The other warrior beside them shook his head and sighed, the affairs of the world are really like chess, and the affairs of the world are unpredictable. Such a big Red Moon City changing hands in the blink of an eye, it's too inconceivable. Yunxiao's face was extremely gloomy. He had heard these remarks along the way. Although Tang Qing's strength is comparable to a 9-stars martial emperor, there are many experts in the Red Moon City. I heard that the 3 elders, Red, Yellow and Blue, have long been 9-stars martial emperors. How could they let outsiders take over? The few martial artists sized him up, and one of them said, you just came from the other 3 regions, right? That night, it was cold and snowing. The entire Red Moon City and the Four Extremes sect were at a stalemate in the sky for an entire night. In the end, no blood was shed, and the Red Moon City compromised. As for the specific situation, I'm afraid no one knows about it except for the Red Moon City and the Four Extremes sect themselves. Compromise? Yunxiao frowned. The shock in his heart was indescribable. Even without Jiang Churen, the Red Moon City was still a behemoth. It was not something that a second-rate sect like the Four Extremes sect could compare to. Why would they compromise for no reason? Moreover, before Jiang Churen went to the end of the world, she had told Ning Keyue to be in charge. With Ning Keyue's character, she would never compromise. Then do you have any news about Ning Keyue? He asked in a deep voice. The warrior's body trembled and he shook his head. He's dead. What? Yun Shao roared in rage, and he almost lost his mind. Unable to suppress his aura, he exploded the air, and the huge impact sent the few warriors flying, some of them even coughing up blood. This time, the people on the street were extremely frightened. They thought that a fight was about to happen and hurriedly ran away in fear. Those peddlers shook their heads with a frown on their faces. If it was in the past, who would dare to cause trouble on the streets of Red Moon City? However, there had been frequent murders during this period of time, and no one seemed to care. They were afraid that they could no longer stay in Red Moon City. The few warriors were also terrified. Although they could not tell Yun Xiao's cultivation base, they could tell that he was a martial emperor realm expert from the fact that he could hurt them with just his uncontrollable aura. One of them looked at Yun Xiao's gloomy face and said in shock, my lord, please calm your anger. I've only heard about it, everyone's saying that. It's none of my business. Yun Xiao gradually suppressed his anger, and his eyes turned slightly red as he said, tell me everything you know, or I'll burn your bones and scatter your ashes. The martial artists were all bitter in their hearts. This was something that the whole world knew, but they just had to say it and they were unlucky. The few of them looked at each other, and finally, their eyes fell on a seemingly clever cultivator, all of them indicating for him to speak. The martial artist swallowed a few times before saying, rumor, it's just a rumor. On the night the Four Extremes sect entered the Red Moon City, Ning Keyue led people to the Purple Cloud Peak to investigate the matter of old planet Tianhuang being sealed. She was intercepted by experts and died. Yun Xiao's killing intent stirred up tiny vortexes that spread out in all directions, and the entire street was covered in frost. Ning Keyue's strength is one of the best in the entire continent. Who has the ability to kill her? The martial artists were so scared that they almost cried. They hurriedly said, Lord, it's none of our business. Please don't kill us. Our status is low, and we only know this much. Yun Xiao's eyes were as cold as 1,000-year-old ice. Looking at the few people crying and begging for mercy, he wished he could kill them all. However, he also knew that these people had limited knowledge, and no matter how much he asked, he would not be able to find out anything. With a flash, he disappeared from the street and turned into a stream of light, heading toward the Purple Cloud Peak. During this period of time, there was an undercurrent in Red Moon City. There were more and more martial artists who flew in such a big movement, but it did not attract any attention. The Purple Cloud Peak was verdant and lush, and spiritual energy was still surging out. It was not affected by the personnel of the Red Moon City, and it still stood on the ground as usual. Yun Xiao landed directly on the top of the mountain, where there was a huge vacuum. All the grass, trees, and gravel had been destroyed. Clearly, a fierce battle had taken place. The battlefield had already been cleaned up by the people of the Red Moon City. There was not a single corpse left, only the bare peak and some shocking traces. The entire mountain peak was almost split in half, and a deep crack so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. Yun Xiao spread out his divine sense, but he did not leave any clues behind. However, his heart was extremely heavy. The terrain here showed that some extremely powerful experts had indeed fought not long ago. He took out the jade card that Ning Keyue had given him and held it in his hand. He wanted to crush it several times, but he resisted the urge. He once again turned into a bolt of lightning and headed towards the Red Moon City. Under the Peach Blossom Cove, there seemed to be a faint light in the pavilion. Yun Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately flew down. Who is it? A man's voice full of hostility came. Yun Xiao was greatly disappointed. He recognized the voice, which belonged to Ning Hengfeng. Where's your sister? Yun Xiao asked directly. Ning Hengfeng's figure appeared, looking very defeated. He was stunned for a moment when he saw Yun Xiao, as if he was quite surprised, but then he said with a smile, "What are you looking for my sister for?" "Your sister is dead?" Yun Xiao asked. "Is she dead?" Ning Hongfeng's face froze, then became extremely ferocious. He roared, "Shut up. Your sister is the one who's dead." An extremely violent aura spread out of his body and headed straight for Yun Xiao, slamming into his chest. Yun Xiao did not dodge, but let the blast hit him and then disappear. "So, Ning Keyue is just missing?" Ning Hangfeng was shocked. His pupils shrank and he said in horror, You've actually become a martial supreme." The shock he felt was indescribable, causing him to lose control of his mind. Yun Xiao was only a 6-stars martial supreme when he fought with Ruo Xiang in Red Moon City. No one on the continent had ever heard of such a monstrous speed of progress. Ning Hangfeng came back to his senses after a short moment of daze, and his dejected expression returned. He said indifferently, "Your talent is really incomparable. The city lord once said that you are the number one among the younger generation, and it was true. In time, I'm afraid that no one in this world will be your match." "Don't talk nonsense with me," Yun Xiao said. "I just want to ask you one thing. Is your sister dead or missing?" Ning Hangfeng felt irritated, but he suppressed it and said coldly, "What does it have to do with you?" A killing intent flickered in Yun Xiao's eyes as he said coldly, "If you weren't his younger brother, I would have crippled you right now." "Cripple me?"
Ha! Ha! Ha!
Ning Hangfeng laughed exaggeratedly and said, "Come on, cripple me. Let me see how strong you are, the number one rising star." The two of them were extremely frustrated. The suppressed emotions in their blood were slowly burning, and killing intent gradually gathered in their eyes. The entire pavilion was in a daze under the pressure of these two auras, as if it would collapse at any time. Bang! Yun Xiao did not hold back at all. He stomped on the ground, shattering the floor under his feet in an instant, and then threw a punch at the man. Pa! Ning Hongfeng's pupils constricted. He grabbed Yun Xiao's arms with both hands and put them on Yun Xiao's arms at an extremely fast and accurate speed. Then, he turned his body and was about to throw Yun Xiao away. The two of them were purely using their physical strength and did not use any origin power. What? Ning Hongfeng's heart trembled. When he grabbed Yun Xiao's arm, he felt like he was holding a mountain. No matter how much strength he had, he could not move it at all. In the moment of shock, Yun Xiao's fist force broke through his defense and smashed into his face. Bang! Ning Hongfeng's entire body was sent flying, crashing into countless buildings and almost falling into the river. His face immediately swelled up.
Ha!
Well played. Ning Hangfeng covered his face and laughed wildly. You hit people but not their faces, you're really ruthless. You're shameless, Yun Xiao said indifferently. What's the use of keeping it? Ning Hangfeng fell silent and said, My sister is missing. I've been to the scene, Yun Xiao said. There are only a few people in the world who can kill her, and among them, there are only a few who have the motive to kill her. Do you have any plans? Ning Hongfeng's body trembled, and his face turned mournful. He smiled sadly and said, I only know that this matter is related to Tang Qing. There are countless masters in the world, and any one of them may involve the interests of killing my sister. How can I make a judgment? Yun Xiao's pupils constricted as he said coldly, This is also the second question I want to know. How did Tang Qing manage to take over the Red Moon City and become the acting city lord? Who is the person behind him? Ning Hongfeng's body trembled, his face full of grief and despair, suddenly turning pale. He gritted his teeth and said, I can't comment on this. Yun Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. I'm not interested in this matter, but the person who supports Tang Qing must be the murderer of your sister. Don't you want to find out the whereabouts of your sister? The person who supports Tang Qing is the one who harmed my sister? Ning Hangfeng suddenly laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes, but he laughed in pain. The people who supported Tang Qing to take down the Red Moon City were the previous city lord, Ning Keyue and his father. It seems that you've been provoked enough, Yun Xiao said coldly. Since you refuse to tell me, I'll find out the truth myself. He turned around and left like a bolt of lightning. This matter not only concerned Ningqiu, but also the Red Moon City. Since Jiang Churan had died to save him, he could not just sit by and watch the Red Moon City fall into trouble. However, with a power that the entire Red Moon City could not resist, he also knew that it was difficult to resist. It was as if a huge rock was pressing down on his heart, causing him to be unable to breathe. He strolled alone on the streets of the Crimson Moon City. The moon in the sky had already returned to its original white color, and its cold light shone down. All of a sudden, his expression changed slightly. He turned his head and looked in a certain direction. Back then, in order to exchange for an explosive yuan pill, he had pledged Frostblade, and they had agreed to let the old man crush the jade pendant to call him after he had gathered all the materials. Just now, it was the old man's jade pendant that had sent him a message, and he had immediately sensed the coordinates of a direction. He's not in the Red Moon City? Yunxiao frowned and said to himself, that direction and distance should still be within the eastern domain. Let's go to the city lord's mansion and find out what's going on before we go retrieve the ice sword. After he made up his mind, he was about to head towards the residence of the castellan when a chubby figure appeared in front of him. It was Zhu Jingyi. Young Master Yun, is it really you? Zhu Jingyi's face was full of surprise. He quickly pulled him aside and said, the last time I saw you leaving the city with serious injuries, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to live. Yunxiao frowned and immediately understood. Compared to the fact that he was seen leaving the city when he was unconscious, he said, how much do you know about what happened in the Red Moon City? Zhu Jingyi's expression changed slightly. Then, he smiled and poked his shoulder. I knew that you were definitely not a heartless person and would definitely return. That's why I had my brothers keep an eye on your whereabouts. As soon as I heard the report, I immediately looked for you. Do you know that the Red Moon City is also looking for you? Yunxiao's heart skipped a beat. You're looking for me in the Red Moon City, he asked. What do you mean by the Red Moon City? Zhu Jingyi forced a smile and said, now, Tang Chang basically has the final say in Red Moon City. Of course, the Tang family of the Four Extremes sect is looking for you. It's very dangerous for you to appear so suddenly. Hurry up and come with me. Where are you going? Yunxiao asked. It's with the two young ladies, Ruobing and Ruame, Zhu Jingyi replied. Yunxiao followed Zhu Jingyi through a few streets and came to a building with civilian houses. He walked straight into an unremarkable courtyard. This small courtyard was the gathering place of the Ice Cube organization, but it seemed to have been deserted. Miss Ruame, look who I've brought. Zhu Jingyi shouted as he ran in. Yunxiao followed her into the room and saw a group of women gathered together, as if they were discussing something. Li Yunxiao. A few exclamations rang out. Yunxiao's heart sank as he looked over, and he felt an extreme pressure on his chest. In addition to the Jiang sisters, Wan Hongyu was also there. They were all the Jiang family's family members, mostly women and a few men. Wan Hongyu had lost a lot of weight. She looked up and said, it's you? Young Master Yun, you're still alive. Jiang Ruobing squeezed out a rare smile and stepped forward. What's wrong? Are you unhappy to see us? Why do you look so gloomy? A graceful and charming woman behind him opened her red lips and said, Sister, big brother Yunxiao must be busy. Don't make a fuss. The woman with an extremely charming figure was actually Jiang Ruame. After the curse was cast, she lost weight like crazy and finally lost weight. She had become the most beautiful woman in the crowd. The Four Extremes sect seems to want to capture you, Wan Hongyu said. Why are you going back to the Red Moon City? Mistress, young Master Yun is a man of honor. He must have known that we were in trouble, so he came back to save us. Zhu Jingyi quickly said.